interesting.
So, Chen Zhen, we'd like to talk with you about your project. So
The
maybe
project for CCA.
Yes, CCA.
Yes, so I think since 3-4 years, I had a chance to come back to Asia's area to make the project, and I think in this case, especially coming back to my motherland region, it's not the question about nostalgia or anything, and it's almost the opposite. That means I know this area, I know a little bit Japan and Korea, I know much better China, but with a lot of distance. That means sometimes I feel it's even have a westernized look. That means the distance. And in this, returning, experience, I received your invitation since almost 2 years. So this project, I think it's one of 3 or 4 projects which has realized in the reflection about the Asia's situation, not only the situation between the Asian country, but also Asia as an important region in the international stage. So the project, of course, was inspired by my experience in returning to Shanghai. The Fudao, that means the good fortune awards, reversed way. I didn't understand, how we can put important words in the upside down position. But once I know such a kind of metaphorical way, which is very Chinese, also I think very Asian, I understand this kind of Eastern conceptual way. So I use this life experience and to, of course, transfer in aiding the Buddha's statue with the garbage stuff and make a temple-like structure in your space. So I think this project is my new experience because I never really do a project with such a kind of material and with such a kind of connection. The coincidence that I cannot find easily the Buddha statue here. Finally, I transported from Shanghai. It's quite nice because it's something come from my own country, and also their movement, 1,500 years ago, probably, how the Buddhism was introduced from China to Japan and so on. So I consider like in the new context, such kind of transport.
Yeah. So I think your project offer us a kind of a really important issue about the way of the thinking in Western world and Eastern world.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Yeah. It's a good point. That means not only the way of working, the way of looking, and the way of thinking. I think I talk about in the future books. If I mean I cannot say I'm a conceptual artist, but I work sometimes conceptually. But the way of thinking play a lot, behind my work, behind my talk, and so on. That means I remember French people. There's a phrase, "C'est du chinois." That means that's Chinese. Once we don't understand about something, we cannot explain. We find it's too much, too complicated. Even it's not Chinese stuff. We said, "Oh, that's Chinese," and I find this is a wonderful compliment for Chinese. As a Chinese, because that means we don't look at things directly, we don't explain things directly. We always find something indirectly, and sometimes it's much more strong with all of ironical, humorous way. So I think the way of thinking, I find a war word, Chinese word, that's borrow something, emprunter, borrow something. And this is very important in Chinese culture even. That means we can borrow from the ancient culture. We can borrow from somebody, from some ideas. We can borrow also today Western culture. That means we can borrow something, but the borrow something means always somebody from his own part, borrow for his own using. So I think this kind of idea probably it's a strategic point position to be always very Chinese or Asian, but in a very open mind sense, in a very hybrid sense also. I think I talk about the Zhen, how is it Jin?
Jin.
That means the essential elements of the body.
Oh yeah, Jin.
Jin. Jin. I think the Western and the Eastern, it's a question, especially if it's, it's a question about the individual. It's really the question of Jin. That means all the real, how to say, the hybrid composition or connection, it's not the level of the material, the surface or the objects. It's a kind of, coexistence and a conviviality between two genes. That means from inside. So if on this point, I think my way of thinking, it's some kind of metaphorical and insinuation, always in a not direct way, even though sometimes I use a very, direct object. For example, this time, the garbage stuff, and nothing happened with the statue of the Buddha. Yeah, it's almost, it's opposite. Sometimes even last time when I visited, the Tokyo temple, big temples, and I feel even there's, market, the street market, just in front of the temple, the main building. I feel it's not very, not very good. I mean, it's just like the noisy, just like the dirty in such a spiritual space and so on. So, but how we can put them together with a very, important and also deep transformation between them and in between them. So I think probably in few words I cannot really, talk about my way of thinking, but I call them some kind of metaphorical conceptualism. That means it's not a pure logical concept. It's a chaotical, impure concept. Yeah. The idea, the title of the idea of the book comes from, at first, in English or French. That means trans-experience or Transexperiences. But at almost the same time, I found a Chinese, title. It's not really a translation, but it's a Chinese title which corresponds very closely to this English word. But I immediately retranslated the second time from Chinese to English. That means what means the first word and the second word. So I think for Chinese and even for the English or for all Western people, they will understand why I choose these four words and why trans experience, if we don't know exactly what it means. And after the second translation, they will know better. Yeah. It's okay?
It's okay, no problem. It's nice.
Yeah,
It's a nice frame.
It's a nice frame.
it's a beautiful camera.
I will make a really close shot.
I worked very hard, Time has gone so quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope this time I didn't trouble you so too much.
No, it's not. I always listen to all different artists, but we never get trouble. Maybe we're easygoing and we're really working with them, yeah? Because it's some people are very maybe difficult people, but we're alright, yeah.
Okay, you have some idea?
Yeah, so let's talk about the previous word. We put that misunderstanding, eternal misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should go to this big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, shall
It's
we,
open,
yeah,
no?
shall we explain about your first idea about this word, this title?
Yeah. The misunderstanding.
Eternal misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So misunderstanding original come from conversation with Pontus on the way to Seoul 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me to just sit outside of him, and we talk a lot, Asia, China, Japan, Korea, and another country, including some experience we get together in Russia, because also a part of Russia can also belongs to Eastern world and so on. So before landing, and I just asked him that with all your experience with West Eastern people, what's your impression? And he said, eternal misunderstanding. So at that moment, why I'm so surprised. It's not only the words itself, surprised me, because when Pontus talked about that with a little bit sorry, that means so difficult to communicate with Asian people and Eastern people. There's always the confusing, understanding and mistake. But also, I had already such a kind of idea in my hand, and what means the cultural exchange. What's the real sense, and what's the real difficulty for communicating, for establishing a bridge, we can pass through. And so I think this level of misunderstanding. So that remind me, I read a book a long time ago. It's a book, I think, written by American. The title is Misunderstanding, a Cultural Misunderstanding and Utilization. That means how to use another culture. In using another culture, how to to be in such a kind of bad, very uncomfortable situation and so on. But with all my experience, I found now the multiple cultural issue or exchange. It's not a question to look for, find the real comprehension, because the real comprehension, even sometimes without a problem language, it's difficult, and with such kind of distance between the different cultural background, I think the comprehension is something like written things and the books and some logical or supermarket. If even we don't know the language, we have no really problem. Always finish by comprehend something. But misunderstanding, there's something very. I feel that's very high level. That means the big desire to try to know the others, try to penetrate in another culture, try to understand quickly at a very word. So at a high level, we meet immediately the misunderstanding. So that is why I call it the eternal misunderstanding. So the misunderstanding also another thing is linking with something unexplained. How to say unexplicit? We cannot explain it really. So in this case, I think all the real things behind the art, it's a misunderstanding. And for example, even I can say the culture, the science even, the high level science is also kind of, misunderstanding or the design about the knowledge or the understanding passed through by misunderstanding. So I think I had a lot of experience, the high, the big pleasure and enjoyment is very often to know what's happened as a misunderstanding. Sometimes really confusing. Yes, it was such a kind of misunderstanding. It's already a big, pleasure. I think especially in the global, multiple cultural issue, in my opinion, it's not a question to find the understanding, the comprehension. It's to find or even create the misunderstanding. Because for creating the real misunderstanding, it's not very easy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So in this line, how do you think about the people who organize the kind of the exhibition, like a transcultural idea? It will be really, what mean exactly for the public? I think the question is very often now today, there's such a kind of big show or multiple. It's sometimes even under the title multiple cultural, transcultural. It's not really multiple cultural, transcultural. It's a multiple trans-ethnic. That means the kind of people put them together. Yes.
That's the question. So the real, the mental, cultural, deep connection between the artists, very few people really study them, and to take the deep consideration about it. A lot of show, done by the people in very very quickly like this. So even I think not a lot of people who have time to really put the energy to study the different culture. I think for finding a good artist, we have to have minimal knowledge about cultural background of this artist. Otherwise, we feel it's good. Probably we have our, the parti pris. Parti pris, that means we have already our own judgment about something. That means from our own eyes. And it's so difficult to imagine for making a big show about multiple culture or transculture and so on. How we can imagine one curator or even a staff can easily to put the confrontation between different cultures instead of put the different kind of people together. So this is, I think, the next central probably the big work. So that is why I think I'm so happy, I can do this work in in CCA, because it's the right place. It's a return way for me. It's a return way. I make a really return way. I went to Europe and the Western world 10 years ago, and 10 years after I come back, not really to Shanghai in my country, but in another Asian country. So I feel so familiar, but also very distant. So in this kind of mentality, such kind of sentimental, and I can, talk about something with my experience, and in a very, special context and environment for me. That this book, probably we can say, during 4 weeks I did it with you and with the publisher. In fact, almost mentally it's a two years work, because once I know your program, your policy, your strategy, to do such a kind of research center, and in my mind already prepared. But not materialized, but prepared. But also, I think, if I think about China, and you have no any censorship, that's tremendous. And, yeah, so I can put everything I like, and you give me, the carte blanche and some 100% freedom to do this. I think this is the main things, for artists. That means we have no limitation in mental, frame to, express us, and this is very important. So, if it will be a nice book, it's also not only artists and publish, also the policy from CCA, which give us so open energy.